So we're going to make this, again, an interesting and interactive session here. So I'm going to ask a few questions. Joseph, welcome again.
Thank you.
What is Qualcomm's strategy for enabling the IoE?
Okay, as we look at the market, it's obviously it's IoE is a very big, broad market. So at the end of the day, Qualcomm is looking at this with respect to how we can enable the ecosystem with, let's say, solutions that can connect and interact seamlessly, and then work with our partners and customers to provide platforms that can enable them to build applications and services and things like that on top of them. So it's really looking at complete platform solutions in this case. Now, as we look at the the Internet of Things market, I mean, this is, again, it's a very broad market, very fragmented. We kind of clustered the market into three major clusters. There's the wearable or body and personal, and that's where it's about connected watches, glasses, trackers, body sensors, and things like that. And in there, we deliver complete, very much complete platforms or reference solutions and turnkey solutions that can enable things like a connected watch. For example, we take a smartphone chip, very much optimize it, minimize it, and put it in a watch. So some of you that have seen some of the watches out in the market, a lot of them actually are using the Qualcomm platforms. So we really provide the complete platform and turnkey solution. In the smart home is a bigger area. And in there, we really deliver complete end-to-end solutions to enable the ecosystem, really from the edge of the cloud to every device in the home, whether it's used for entertainment or for control and automation. And then there is the wider city environments in which also we deliver different types of solutions in there into industrial, commercial, and transportation type of applications. So this is in kind of a nutshell what we're trying to do in there. It's about really enabling complete end-to-end solutions.
That's great because Qualcomm is a big company. People in the room have probably experienced some Qualcomm products. So that's a good way to connect Qualcomm to the whole IoT space.
Yeah, yeah.
And then again, if we continue with the same thought, what are some of the biggest challenges the industry must overcome to achieve the true IoE? Is it technology, regulatory standards?
It's a good question. And I think everybody that's working in this market is I think is battling with this challenge. There are a few challenges. Talking about it, from a market fragmentation to start with, right? It's a very, very big market. Enabling everything or anything is not an easy task, right? So the fragmentation of the market, looking at different applications, different technologies, different channels, and all that, makes it actually very challenging with respect to how you build, let's say, the right type of solutions to address different applications that can generate critical mass at the end of the day. We're all in this business to make money, right? And the more fragmented the market, the harder it is to come up with solutions that can be optimized. So this is one key let's say, challenge that we see. The other thing is talk about technologies, right? So you look at wireless technologies, whether it's in the home or in industrial and commercial applications. There's Wi-Fi, there's Bluetooth, there's Zigbee, there's Z-Wave, there's sub 1 gig. There's a lot of technologies out there. No single company can address or support all these technologies. So this is another challenge where companies like Qualcomm and probably others in the industry are looking at how do we converge on a smaller set of technologies to address broader parts of the market.
Actually, we didn't touch on the title of this session. So you've termed it as it's Internet of Hype to Internet of Everything. So what do you think? Is it a hype or is it?
I think it's starting to happen. It's starting to materialize. Well, yesterday we had a press day in San Francisco, and one of the things that our president said actually is that Qualcomm is doing more, I think, than $1 billion in IoE already, right? So the point here is, I mean, it's not the hype anymore. There's a lot of applications in the market that are starting to develop. Talk about things within the smart home, for example, right? Talking about appliances, LED lighting. So a lot of pieces of the ecosystem are starting to develop. Is it there? No, it's not. I mean, people are talking about billions and billions of devices. We're not there yet. We're not close to that. but I think things are starting to happen.
Great. And I know it's, sometimes it's very confusing. Someone calls it IoT, someone calls it IoE, and, even IoE has multiple definitions. I heard yesterday somebody talk about IoE as Internet of Execution. And now you call it Internet of Everything.
Yes. Why is the question? Yes. So, at the end of the day, connecting, as we look at the market and things or everything, right? When you talk about IoT, in our view, you're talking about connecting devices, right? For us, it goes beyond than connecting devices. It's about connecting devices to devices, devices to people, to infrastructures, to services, to capabilities, right? So it's really about enabling an ecosystem. So with that, we thought that, Internet of Everything provides a better...
That definitely makes sense, yes. Now, most people identify Qualcomm with their Qualcomm phones and communication devices. How does your expertise, Qualcomm's expertise in the mobile space translate into IoE?
Right. So if we look at a lot of the applications in the Internet of Everything space, there's a lot of, and you talk about sensors, you talk about wearables, you talk about different parts of the ecosystem. Power consumption is very critical, right? Having the CPU capabilities, graphics, video, audio. So the point is, coming with a very wide portfolio from a mobile perspective, a lot of that technology is very much leveraged in here. So we have the DNA of how we can make sensors that can run on coin cell batteries for many years, right? We have the DNA to address different issues and challenges in the ecosystem. So that portfolio and capability is helping us a lot to actually get a head start in the market.
Great. And we always talk about, in any one of these sessions, talk about standards and policies and government involvement. How does Qualcomm see the interoperability of standards? And you're a big player in this space, so.
Right. At the end of the day, when we talk about, say, the smart home as a good example, right? What makes a smart home is really how things can interact in the home, right? Today, probably all of us have devices that have Wi-Fi or some sort of connectivity in them. But if you try to connect these devices together, it's a nightmare. I do Wi-Fi for a living, and I gave up on trying to make these devices work with 4 or 5 different applications. So at the end of the day, interoperability is going to be the key ingredient that need to happen for this smartness to happen around the house, which is when the consumer is going to start seeing the value. So I believe, we're getting closer. Today there are at least 3 standards that I can think of, that people are trying to use for these ecosystems for interoperability. The one that we're driving, obviously, the All-Join or the All-Scene Alliance, we really contributed the All-Join technology into the alliance, into the open source, to help the market go towards that conversion. So I think it's building quite a bit of momentum. There's like 140 plus companies in there. And they're starting to talk about how they want to merge, how they want to do things that help with this interoperability problem. So we're hopeful.
So if I may ask you a little bit more on that,
Absolutely.
and I also see that even the standard that are emerging, there are, and now you said about 140 companies in Europe. There are other consortiums competing one.
Right.
When do you see these things come together? Are the developers sitting there in the audience, are they going to struggle with these multiple standards? Do I have to worry about all of them?
Correct. Yes, and this is honestly something we're struggling with as Qualcomm as well, right? Because I think it's to everybody's benefit in the industry that this convergence happened and these groups to merge. I think there are initiatives to try to do that. We'll see how that goes. But I think for the consumer, for companies like us, as that convergence happens, the pie gets bigger. And I think everybody can make more money with that. So hopefully it'll happen.
So you're saying there is room for multiple standards here?
I'm saying that, I'm hopeful that more convergence will happen in the market.
Great. And you touched on this a little bit in the beginning. What are your initiatives on the smart home side of IoT?
Yeah, smart home is a very exciting, actually, part for Qualcomm, and even before Qualcomm, coming from our old company with Atheros. So, smart home, as we look at it again, for it to happen, there has to be that complete ecosystem of devices that can interoperate. So within Qualcomm, we have very much the, let's say, all the key components in there. So our strategy there really is to look at it from the edge of the cloud to every device in the home where, with our smart gateways and routers, we, enable the pipe into the cloud. And then in the home, we provide platforms and solutions that can, address, entertainment, in TVs, gaming, cameras, etc., or controlling devices and things. So we really enable a complete ecosystem and address the, let's say, the networking problem that, some of the people in the ecosystem have. So really our solution is a complete end-to-end that can enable the complete ecosystem in the home. And then we work with our customers and partners on how we can work, how we can help them build services, applications, and things like that on top of it. So, and that's, I think, a key component in how these things will start materializing. You need to address the problem of how all these things work together.
So we had both Trimble and Boeing here before your session, and they talked about some of the use cases in the enterprise. And I see Qualcomm as a sort of unique company that has both its presence and it also has had several enterprise solutions in the past and consumer.
Right.
How do you see, this was a question I think that was asked from the audience in the previous panel. Yeah. Do you think the IoT in the enterprise space is going to be bigger than the consumer, or consumer is going to be bigger, and do you really care? It's a good question.
No, we care a lot. We care a lot. Like I mentioned earlier, we address the market in 3 major clusters, right? There's the smart home cluster, and there's the smart city or the wider environment as well. So we're looking at, and then there's the wearable piece, right? So we're looking at all these 3, properly. But I believe the smart cities or the wider industrial, commercial is a little bit less understood than the other markets. And I think there's significant untapped potential in there that can be achieved. So we're very excited about that market. Now, obviously, we come more from the consumer side, right? We know the smart home, we know wearables, so the mobile space we know very well. Now going after, those industrial and commercial areas, I think there's a significant opportunity, for us in there that we're looking at very carefully.
So for those entrepreneurs sitting in the audience, you're saying that you can make the smart fork and the smart thermostat, but there's also a huge potential in the
absolutely.
Enterprise side.
Absolutely. Great. Talking about smart meters, talking about security panels, talking about valves. I mean, today actually in the smart, let's say, city space, we do a lot in energy management in smart meters, for example. We have actually a pretty sizable business in machine-to-machine, right, where we're driving cellular modems and other computing capabilities into things like smart meters, parking meters, commercial lighting, looking at valves and things like that, as well at this point. So the market is very exciting, even that part of the market.
Great. And so this is the question that I always ask most, because this is, TiECon is an entrepreneurial conference. So those entrepreneurs sitting there either dreaming up a project or have something, what is it that Qualcomm has to offer to them?
I think, yeah, that's actually a very good question. And it kind of, I go back to what I said earlier. At the end of the day, you need to have the underlying technology to do, some amazing things out there, right? And, what Qualcomm really is doing today is trying to enable that underlying technology and underlying capability that innovators can use to build things on top of, right? Talking about, whether you're enabling services or applications, or you want to enable some type of new devices, right? The technologies that we bring to the market today, whether it's in the home or in the wider, in the wider city environments, will be a major starting point for innovation at the end of the day. So we work with a lot of actually young companies or startups that are, coming up with some very interesting ideas about doing certain things in the ecosystem. And we work, now, obviously, you cannot put a lot of focus and a lot of support because you need to follow the money. But we still look at some of these, let's say, innovating, interesting companies that we want to put some effort on, and we give them access to technology that they cannot actually get elsewhere. So this is how we're trying to help.
So if I'm hearing it right, you have a focused initiative of some sort that an entrepreneurs can tap into
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, we don't tell customers to go away. And in this space, especially as you look at the Internet of Everything, it's a different ball game than selling into smartphones, right? Or selling smartphones into the cellular space. So the market is much broader, it's much more fragmented. So you have to have a different mindset and mentality. And as new companies are emerging, we need to have that flexibility to work and enable such companies to grow.
So I have 5 seconds here, so I'm going to ask you a rapid fire question, yes or no. Are we over the hype phase?
I think we're going through it, yes.
Good. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.